Hari Om Sahana Vavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryan Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we were discussing the previous times the 64 activities of devotional service, or the 64 angas of bhakti, and we came to the 5 most potent activities of bhakti. And now we are going to discuss why they are considered so potent. And as we said previous time, we understand that they are so potent because Rupa Goswami repeats them at least 2 times in these 64. So that's why we understand they have special place, special potency. So which were these 5? Let's try to again remind ourselves. Maybe you can help me if someone remembers.
Residing in
Hearing the
Mathura, Vrindavan.
Residing in Vrindavan, in the holy place. Yes, 1.
Chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Chanting Hare Krishna, the holy names. Yes. What else?
Reciting Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes. Reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And 2 more. Maybe
Or memory, Prabhuji.
someone can
associating with advanced devotees.
association
Hare
with,
Krishna, serving a devotee.
yes, serving the devotees, associating with devotees, and 1 more.
Worshipping the deity of the Lord.
Yes, worshipping with you. Yeah. Thank you very much. So these are the 5 most potent activities of bhakti. So now we are going to speak a little bit about them in chapter 13. We are going to say some things about them. There are a few quotes, and also we are going to discuss why it's given so much importance, especially to these 5. And then in the 14th chapter, we are going to look at the topic starts already in the 13th chapter, but mainly 14th chapter. What is the correlationship of some other things with the process of bhakti, like for example, Varnashrama Dharma, Jnana and Vairagya, Yama and Niyama following different rules and regulations. Are these things part of the 64 angas of bhakti? Are they part of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, or they are something different? And if they are different, where is their place? Are they important for a devotee or not at all? So we are going to discuss these topics today. So let's start with 13th chapter. So I'll just read a little bit from The Waves of Devotion, Damodar Maharaj's book. Srila Prabhupada states that these practices are so potent that a small attachment for any of these 5 items can arouse devotional ecstasy, even in a neophyte. Devotional ecstasy refers to Bhava Bhakti. Neophyte in this context refers to one with weak attachment. Thus, even a neophyte devotee with weak attachment to Krishna can quickly achieve Bhava Bhakti by practicing any one of these 5 most potent items. So this is what is meant by these 5 most potent items are extremely powerful. The idea is that they have the power very fast to bring us even to the level of bhakti.
Bhava.
Bhava, yes. So very, very, very potent activities.
So which page, Prabhuji, you are reading from? I missed.
This is, I said, this is from a book called Waves of Devotion.
Oh, okay.
It's a book of Damodar Maharaj. It's like a study guide for studying Nectar of Devotion.
Okay, nice. Thank you.
Now we'll read Nectar of Devotion. Just first, I wanted to give you a little bit intro. So the point was that these five, they have the power very fast to bring us to Bhava Bhakti, even if we are neophyte devotees. So now one very interesting point is that Srila Prabhupada used these five most potent items as pillars on which he built his own basic spiritual program. Like if we see what we are doing in our daily schedule, daily life, in, let's say, our lifestyle in the temples, and of course, the lifestyle of the devotees at home is like copying the lifestyle in the temple. So we can see the basic thing is everything is around chanting Hare Krishna mantra, worshipping the deity, Srimad Bhagavatam class every day, association of devotees, and Srila Prabhupada also created many temples, and also he created establishments in Mayapur, in Vrindavan, so that devotees can go there regularly and get the special potency of the Dham. So actually our process, the process that we are following, the process that Srila Prabhupada established for us, more or less is basically centered around these five most potent forms of bhakti. So any one of these items can quickly arouse Bhava Bhakti, even in a neophyte. However, these powerful items will not bestow their effects as long as we commit offenses. Thus, a devotee who wants to make rapid advancement should focus on these five potent items and diligently avoid offenses, especially offenses to Vaishnavas. So, these five are extremely potent, but we should not make offenses. If we make offenses, we won't be able to experience the potency of these five most important angas of bhakti. So now we will read from Nectar of Devotion, and basically we will see Rupa Goswami is giving, and Srila Prabhupada is describing it, 5 examples how each of these 5 has the power to invoke Bhava Bhakti. More or less, this is what's going on in this 13th chapter of Nectar of Devotion. So we will just read, go through it, and maybe just say a few things. Rupa Goswami, so now we start from the beginning of chapter 13. Rupa Goswami has stated that 5 kinds of devotional activities, namely residing in Mathura, worshipping the deity of the Lord, reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, serving a devotee, and chanting Hare Krishna mantra, are so potent that a small attachment for any one of these 5 can arouse devotional ecstasy even in a neophyte. Regarding worship of the form of the Lord or deity, Rupa Goswami has written the following verse. My dear friend, if you still have any desire to enjoy the company of your friends within this material world, then don't look upon the form of Krishna, who is standing on the bank of Keshi Ghat, a bathing place in Vrindavan. He is known as Govinda, and his eyes are very enchanting. He is playing upon his flute, and on his head there is a peacock feather, and his whole body is illuminated by the moonlight in the sky. So this is the example of worshipping the deity, first anga. Srila Prabhupada is saying, a purport of this verse is that if someone becomes attached to Sri Murti or the deity of Krishna by worshipping at home, then he will forget his relationships of so-called friendship, love, and society. Thus, it is the duty of every householder to install deities of the Lord at home and to begin the process of worshipping along with all of his family members. This will save anyone from such unwanted activities as going to clubs, cinemas, and dancing parties, and smoking, drinking, etc. All such nonsense will be forgotten if one stresses the worship of the deity at home. So very fast we can develop such a strong attachment to the deity, to worshiping the deity, that Srila Prabhupada is saying we are going to forget about all this nonsense, going to clubs, cinemas, dancing parties, smoking, drinking. All this nonsense will be forgotten if one stresses the worship of the deity at home.
Guruji,
Yes.
about deity installation, is it deity worship anybody, first initiated person can do it, or need a second initiation, being a Brahmin, to do the deity worship? Because we don't have deity in whom we do the portrait. So
Portrait is also a
Is-
deity. There are different types of deities. Picture of the Lord is also deity. It's just the picture you cannot dress and you cannot bathe.
yeah,
It's also.
but if I install the deity, then I started doing it and learning definitely. As a first time we have to learn, even I'm not second initiated. Is it allowed?
It is allowed, but you
Okay.
have to do it according to the rules and regulations. What is the difference between picture and the deity? As Pandava Prabhu said, well, one difference is you don't bathe the picture, you don't dress
Yeah.
the picture. But also, once the deity comes at home, we have to take care of it every day. It's like a kid. You have to take care of it. You cannot do it whimsically. Oh, now I'm very enthusiastic. That's why this week I will worship Krishna, and next week is very busy for me, so I won't worship him. It's not like that. It's everyday engagement. It's like a kid. It's like a cow. You cannot skip.
Oh, okay. And is it like number of times I see in the temple, however, 5 times or 3 times, but in whom is it constantly we can continue like 2 times
Yeah,
worship?
it can, the standard can be a little lower, but the point is that it should be every day. So
Every day. Okay, I see.
every day you have to offer food at least 1-2 times. Every day you have to bat the deity, dress the deity. Generally, this is the standard for deity worship. Of course, nowadays in ISKCON, many things are going on. Like everybody has his own standard. But because you are asking us, so we are telling you what we learn generally in Mayapur Academy. If you have a deity, you have to worship it every day. Now, if you cannot do that, then better have a pictures, then better have an altar. That is better.
Okay, Prabhuji, thank you for that.
Takes a deity, then it's good that he worships the deity every day. Okay. Rupa Goswami further writes, my dear foolish friend, I think that you have already heard some of the auspicious Srimad Bhagavatam, which decries seeking the results of fruitive activities, economic development, and liberation. I think that now it is certain that gradually the verses of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam describing the pastimes of the Lord will enter your ears and go into your heart. So this is the example of reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes? Srila Prabhupada says, in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that unless one has ability to throw out, just like garbage, the fruitive results of ritualistic ceremonies, economic development, and becoming one with the Supreme, one cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam deals exclusively with devotional service.
So that means that until we are attached to material sense gratification, we cannot really relish Bhagavatam. And they were stated already in the previous chapters of Nectar of Devotion. Until there is material attachment, we cannot actually experience even drop of the true happiness of Krishna consciousness. So this is the price we have to pay. Cannot have both. We have to make a choice. Okay.
So only one who studies Srimad Bhagavatam in the spirit of renunciation can understand the pastimes of the Lord, which are described in 10 canto. In other words, one should not try to understand the topics of the 10 cantos such as Rasa Lila unless he has spontaneous attraction for Srimad Bhagavatam. One must be situated in pure devotional service before he can relish Srimad Bhagavatam as it is. In the above two verses, Srila Rupa Goswami, these are some metaphorical analogies that indirectly condemn the association of materialistic society, friendship, and love. People are generally attracted to society, friendship, and love, and they make elaborate arrangements and strong endeavors to develop these material contaminations. But to see the Sri Murti of Radha and Krishna is to forget such endeavors for material association. Rupa Goswami composed his verse in such a way that he was seemingly praising the material association of friendship and love and was condemning the audience of Sri Murti of Govinda. This metaphorical analogy is constructed in such a way that things which seem to be praised are condemned, and things which are to be condemned are praised. The actual import of the verse is that one must see the form of Govinda if one at all wants to forget the nonsense of material, friendship, love, and society. So the verse that we read, apparently Srila Rupa Goswami is saying, don't look at Krishna, Govinda. But actually he is saying, look, because if you look, then naturally you will forget all your attachment to the material world, material people, material association. So actually it's glorification of the power of worshiping the deity, seeing the deity of Krishna.
Queen Conte also, she says, if we see you.
So there is some kind of confusion I have. You say do not look to which to deity worship, or and then you can forget the material or something. I'm not clear actually. If you can repeat it, please.
Go back to the first page.
Okay.
9. The third,
109.
the second paragraph is the verse.
My dear friend, if you still have any desire to enjoy the company of your friends within the material world, then don't look upon the form of Krishna. Oh, okay, I see. Who is standing on the bank of?
If you want to keep your material attachment, you better don't look at the deity. You better don't worship the deities, because once only if you see the beautiful shape, the beautiful form of Krishna, you'll forget about all your material attachments. This is what the verse is saying. But Rupa Goswami, being a great poet, he's writing it in this very interesting way. Apparently, he is glorifying the material association and condemning looking at the deity, but actually what he means is opposite. Okay, it's clear?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So then we continue page 110, the third paragraph. Srila Rupa Goswami. Sri Rupa Goswami has similarly described the transcendental nature of relishing topics which concern Krishna. A devotee once said, "It is very astonishing that since I have seen this personality of Godhead, who is washed by the tears of my eyes, there is shivering of my body, and he has made me a failure in executing my material duties. Since seeing him, I cannot remain silently at home. I wish to go out to him always." The purport of this statement is that as soon as one is fortunate enough to contact a pure devotee, one must be anxious immediately to hear about Krishna, to learn about Krishna, or in other words, to become fully Krishna conscious. So this purport, this verse is glorifying the greatness of association with devotees. This is the idea. Similarly, there is a statement about hearing the chanting of Mahamantra. It is said that saints have been able to hear the vibrating strings of the Veena of hands of Narada, who is always singing the glories of Lord Krishna. Now this same sound vibration has entered my ears, and I am always feeling the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Gradually, I am becoming bereft of all attachment for material enjoyment. So this is obviously glorification of the chanting of the holy names. So powerful. Gradually, I'm becoming bereft of all attachment for material enjoyment. And then Sri Rupa Goswami is glorifying the last Anga, Mathura, living in holy place like Mathura. Again, Sri Rupa Goswami has described Mathura Mandala. I remember the Lord standing by the banks of the Yamuna river, so beautiful amidst the Kadamba trees, where many birds are chirping in the gardens. And these impressions are always giving me transcendental realization of beauty and bliss. This feeling about Mathura Mandala and Vrindavana described by Rupa Goswami can actually be felt even by non-devotees. The places in the 168 square mile district of Mathura are so beautifully situated on the banks of the river Yamuna that anyone who goes there will never want to return to this material world. Uh-oh, dangerous. These statements by Rupa Goswami are factually realized descriptions of Mathura and Vrindavana. All these qualities prove that Mathura and Vrindavana are situated transcendentally. Otherwise, there would be no possibility of invoking our transcendental sentiments in these places. Such transcendental feelings are aroused immediately and without fail after one arrives in Mathura or Vrindavan. So what is the proof that these places are special spiritual places where when we go there, suddenly very fast, our attachment to Krishna is developing. Our desire to serve Krishna is developing. Our desire to chant Hare Krishna, to hear Srimad Bhagavatam is developing. So this is the proof of the spiritual potency of these places.
No, I mean, no.
So basically that was a description. Sri Rupa Goswami is giving 5 examples how each of these 5 angas is so potent it can involve bhava bhakti or spontaneous emotions in our heart very, very fast. Now, someone may say, but wait a minute, we don't see always these effects. Like we are chanting Hare Krishna, but we are not always have spontaneous emotions. We are living in the temple, but we are not always super ecstatic. We are associating with the devotees every day, but still our mind is going here and there and desiring material things. So how to understand this? Is that means that all these descriptions, they are actually
Exaggeration.
Yeah, exaggeration or too much description. No, they are not overestimation, they are not exaggeration. Exaggeration means that, let's say, for example, I'm saying, Shastri is saying, even if you one time you repeat Hare Krishna, all your sinful activities, reactions from sinful activities are already destroyed. And even the activities that you're going to do in the future, their reactions are also destroyed. So someone may say, oh, this is too much. Exaggeration. Yes. It is said like that just to encourage people to chant Hare Krishna, but actually it's not like that. Exaggeration. So Rupa Goswami is saying, no, it's not exaggeration. So let's see what Srila Prabhupada is saying. In these statements about devotional service, this is page 111, second paragraph. In these statements about devotional service, sometimes it may appear that the results have been overestimated, but actually there is no overestimation. Some devotees as revealed scriptures give evidence, have had immediate results by such association, although this is not possible for all. For example, the Kumaras immediately became devotees simply by smelling the incense in the temple. And Bilvamangala Thakur simply heard about Krishna and then immediately gave up his beautiful girlfriend and started out for Mathura and Vrindavan, where he became a perfect Vaishnava. So these statements are not overestimations, nor are they stories. They are actual facts, but are true for certain devotees and do not necessarily apply to all devotees. These descriptions, even if considered overestimations, must be taken as they are in order to divert our attention from the fleeting material beauty to the eternal beauty of Krishna consciousness. And for a person who is already in contact with Krishna consciousness, the described results are not unusual. So basically, Srila Prabhupada is explaining, no, it's not overestimation because we see examples that this happened. And he's giving two examples. The four Kumaras, they were impersonalists. They were not devotees. They went to Vaikuntha just by smelling the incense. In Bhagavatam, it is said, just by smelling the smell of tulasi leaves offered in the lotus feet of Krishna, immediately their mind changed and they experienced bhava. They experienced extreme spiritual emotions, spiritual ecstasy. And Bilvamangala Thakur also, we know the story about Bilvamangala Thakur. He was acting like an ordinary person. He was very attached to a prostitute, so much that one evening he wanted to have her association, and although outside there was a big storm, still he was very determined to go to her house. So he had to cross a river. There was no boatman because of the storm. He was swimming over. He started drowning, and he caught a swimming part of tree which was in the river. And then when he, with the help of this tree, went on the other shore, when he looked, actually it was not a tree, it was a dead body. And somehow anyway, he just crossed the river. Then he reached the house, but the outside door was locked. And then he wanted to go over the fence, and he started using one of the planks on the fence as a rope. But then when he went on the top of the fence, he looked in his hands. That was not a rope, that was a snake. He threw the snake. Anyway, he jumped inside and he reached the object of his desire, this lady, and he entered the house. But suddenly it is said that his spiritual master spoke through the mouth of this lady. So she said, if you had the same determination to make spiritual advancement as the determination you just show to come here to me, you will be already a pure devotee. And when he heard these things, he just left, turned back and left, and immediately started following down. And of course, many things happen in his life.
The same person who popped his eyes out.
Correct. The same person that later he took out his eyes, his vision, so that not to be, what is the word? Yes, not to be too much attracted by the material beauty. And then he went to Vrindavan and he was the whole day just making kirtan and praying to Krishna. And then it is said that later Krishna appeared in front of him. Krishna gave him his darshan. Bilva Mangala Thakur, very special personality. He wrote a book that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought from South India, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really appreciated the descriptions in this book. The book is called Krishna Karnamrita. Also, other interesting fact for Bilva Mangala Thakur is that he was living 700 years. Not 70, not 170, 700 years. In Kali Yuga. Yes. Amazing, huh? Anyway, so these examples, they show that it is possible. It is possible just by chanting Hare Krishna for a few days to start experiencing extreme emotions. It is possible just by worshipping the deities to experience bhava. It is possible just by association with the devotees suddenly to start feeling ecstatic. Your hairs to stand on end and tears to start coming from your eyes. It is possible. But Srila Prabhupada is saying it may not happen every time. And it may not happen with every devotee. With some devotees it will happen very fast. With some devotees it will take a little bit more time. But still the potency of these five is there. And if we are practicing them seriously, it's a question of time this potency to be revealed. Do we have some questions, dear devotees? Okay, so after that, a new discussion is starting in the book. What is the relation of some additional practices to the practice of sadhana bhakti, like varnashrama dharma, knowledge, renunciation, and so on and so on. So now we are going to go to these things. Srila Prabhupada is saying at the end of page 111, some scholars argue that simply by following the principles of Varna and Ashrama, one can gradually rise to the perfection reached by practicing devotional service. But this argument is not accepted by the great authorities. Lord Chaitanya also condemned this idea while he was talking with Ramananda Raya about the gradual development of devotional service. He rejected the idea of the importance of Varnashrama Dharma when it was put forward by Ramananda Raya. He said that this advancement of Varna and Ashrama is merely external. There is a higher principle. In Bhagavad Gita also the Lord says that one has to give up all other principles of elevation and take simply to the method of Krishna consciousness. That will help one in achieving the highest perfection of life. In the 11th canto, 12th chapter, verse 9, Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord himself says, one should execute the prescribed duties of Varna and Ashrama as long as he has not developed spontaneous attachment for hearing about my pastimes and activities. In other words, the prescribed forms of Varna and Ashrama are ritualistic ceremonies of religion intended for economic development, sense gratification, or salvation. All of these things are recommended for persons who have not developed Krishna consciousness. In fact, all such activities are recommended in the revealed scriptures only to bring one to the point of Krishna consciousness. But one who has already developed spontaneous attachment for Krishna does not require to execute these duties prescribed in the scriptures.
So we have to pay attention here. Srila Prabhupada says in Bhagavatam also, one who has already developed spontaneous attachment for Krishna, he does not require to execute the duties prescribed in the scriptures. So that means bhava. So one thing is that Varnashrama is not part of the angas of bhakti, but still, unless we are on the level of bhava, it means we are liberated. Until this moment, we have to execute our duties according to Varnashrama. Of course, this type of duties, which are prescribed by our founder Acharya, not everything and anything. But our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada has given us already the 4 ashrams and the 4 varnas, more or less. Out of 8 elements of Varnashrama, 5 are established quite firmly. I mean, the 4 ashramas, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas, and the Brahminical Varna is firmly established. So we shouldn't use this as an excuse not to perform our duties according to the Varnashrama. Varnashrama simply means human culture in Sattva Guna. So if we don't have such a strong taste for chanting, hearing and chanting, and listening, hearing Bhagavatam, that means we have to do other things as well. So if we're not on the level that we just can sit the whole day and read Bhagavatam or chant under a tree in Mayapur. In other words, if we are family persons, if we have family, if we're grihastas, then we have to follow the rules for grihasta ashram. Because we don't just engage in hearing and chanting, right? We engage most of the time in material activities which we connect to Krishna, and in this way they become indirect devotional service. But who governs this material activity? Varnashrama. Okay? Is it clear? Makes any sense?
In other words, what Pandava Prabhu is saying that, yes, Varnashrama Dharma is not one of the 64 angas of bhakti. It's not directly part of the practice of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. But we need, on our level of existence, Varnashrama Dharma, so that we can keep ourselves to pure way of life. So basically, Varnashrama Dharma, by regulating your life with different rules and regulations, is keeping you out of sinful activities. And then we can very easily practice Krishna consciousness. And we can see without the rules and regulations of Varnashrama Dharma, we will most probably follow another culture, and this culture will be predominantly under the modes of Tamoguna and Rajaguna, and the result of this will be that we will engage ourselves in different sinful activities.
Like, for example, because what Tulsi Prabhu says is very important. We cannot live without religion, without culture. Human beings will either follow the Vedic culture or will manufacture their own. They'll speculate. So few lectures ago, last or the previous time, there was a discussion regarding the Father's Day, right? We're talking about the Father's Day
or birthdays,
or I guess Christmas or Mother's Day, whatever. So these are all social gatherings, and this is all a manifestation of certain culture, religion. But unfortunately, although it is, of course, a it's a reflection of the Vedic culture, it is remote, perverted reflection, and it's in the mode of passion and ignorance. That's what it is. We have the same activities, the same social gatherings, the same, they are called samskaras in Vedic culture, but one should be trained and one should have appreciation and one should be willing to follow them. And then you have the same effect, better effect actually, because it's in a mode of goodness. You can experience even higher pleasure, even material, but it's higher material pleasure, it's a mode of goodness. And at the same time can be very easily connected to Krishna. So it's a higher culture because it is in the mode of goodness. So I don't want to preach to you too much about Vedic culture because I think most of you are coming from this culture. So I don't have to explain to you that the Vedic culture is higher than the American culture. But just I want to make this point very clear. Either we'll follow the culture of the Vedas, the eternal culture, Sanatana Dharma, or we'll manufacture our own. So that's our choice. Of course, if you manufacture our own, then again it will can be connected to Krishna, as we discussed this time. We discussed the Father; they can be connected to Krishna, but it's more difficult because it is not in Sattva Guna, and it's much more easy. Therefore, we have all these samskaras described, dash samskara described in Shastra. It's much more easy to connect them to Krishna because the acharyas already explained how. We don't have to speculate. Okay, that's all. I hope this makes sense.
Damodar Maharaj is giving very good example to illustrate this. He's saying, a devotee who is not yet fully attracted to unalloyed glorification of Krishna may utilize Varnashrama Dharma to regulate and purify his distracting material desires. For example, marriage is certainly not one of the 64 angas of devotional service. A devotee, however, may enter the Grihastha ashrama if necessary to avoid sinful life and stay on the progressive path.
Neither is, by the way, taking sannyas.
Yes.
Technically part of bhakti.
Or being a brahmachari.
Or taking a vow of brahmachari.
If such varnashrama activities are aimed at purification for the Lord's pleasure, they can be considered a subsidiary item of devotional service. Without being aimed at eventual purification and unalloyed surrender, no aspect of varnashrama can be considered an item of devotional service. So, if the practice of varnashrama dharma or taking brahmacharya vow or being sannyasi, all these, we could say these are different varnashrama duties, or getting married also. If they aim at our advancement in Krishna consciousness, they are supportive to bhakti. So they become like part of our bhakti practice. But if they are not on their own, they are not devotional service. But as we said again, they are very much helpful because they keep us in a higher consciousness lifestyle.
Just like taking shower early in the morning is not technically part of bhakti. It's not devotional service, but it is conducive for developing Krishna consciousness. Because
you get up early, you have purified your consciousness, then it will be much easier to remember Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, to listen Srimad Bhagavatam. If you get up at 9 o'clock in the morning, you don't take shower, then it will be much more difficult. Still you can do it, but it will be much more difficult. So that's why we are saying generally this culture of Varnashrama Dharma is more supportive. It's helping our practice.
Because it's Krishna's own culture. Krishna's own. Krishna himself, he says in Gita, Chatur Varnam Maya Srishtam. I am the origin of Varnashrama. It's my system.
Guna Karma Vibhagashka. Yes, Bhagavad Gita 4:13. Verse 13. Do you have some questions here, dear devotees?
Prabhuji, we are good, I think. It's a very good discussion, understandable. So from my side, no question.
Everything is clear?
Yeah, mostly now on the test, how much we can answer depends on clarity. Thank you.
Prabhuji doesn't want to challenge
Hare
them.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
Mati.
Prabhuji, I have a question regarding the closed book questions. Like, I was checking the question, like, how do you expect us to answer? Like, to the point answer? Like, I say some question, like one sentence answer. Do you like that, or you
Yes.
want elaborate?
No, I want exactly that.
Like, if it is a one word answer.
Yes.
Like, there was a question, like here in 13th chapter, the answer is like the first, like, the 5 potent forms of devotional service are
Yes.
so potent that small attachment for any one of these 5 items can arouse devotional ecstasy even in the neophyte. The question was like, arouse what? So the answer is devotional ecstasy.
Yes.
So you want that to the point answer, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Because
good for us. Thank you.
if you say devotion or ecstasy, or if you say bhava, I will understand that you read and you learned and you understood. So no need of more. Sometimes, if necessary, you can add something, 1 sentence, 2 sentences, but no need to write too long. Just the idea is that I see that you really went through the material, you learned the most important things from the material. That's the idea.
That's good thing. That's absolutely good thing, Prabhuji. Another thing is like time consuming. Like if we want to express ourselves in an elaborated way, then it
Yes.
takes time. And at the end of the time, test, we cannot, let's say, finish
Yeah,
other questions.
correct. Expression will come in your open book essay. In the essay,
Mhm.
express yourself.
That's good. Very good.
This is just a check that you learn your material, that you learn the most important things from the material. That's the idea.
Also, there is a statement in Shastra that essential truth spoken concisely, it's true eloquence. So try to be eloquent as much as possible.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we'll go through 14th chapter, which is very small chapter. And we'll do that. Why? Because we want to finish with Nectar of Devotion next Sunday. So because of that, dear devotees, I will ask for your permission that we make one more extra class in Wednesday evening, again 6:30. Sorry, maybe I am messing up little your plans. Forgive me for that. But I will ask for this, if in case some of you cannot do it, you can hear the lecture a little bit later, just because otherwise the plan was to finish next Monday, but actually next Monday, me and Pandava Prabhu, we have to travel, we are flying, so it won't be possible to...
Yeah, this is your mercy, Prabhuji. We will take it as you have video also, and we want you guys have enough ready process and nice smooth journey. So even Sunday program, if you want to squeeze somewhere in the evening, we actually don't expect, but in case you need. It's from my opinion, as you have like recording, so we can manage it.
Wednesday, it's okay? Can you manage?
Yeah, for me it's fine. Any other Prabhujis and Matajis has any?
Yeah, this is Dhananjay Krishna Das. I mean, yeah, we can adjust. No problem. 6:30.
And
Wednesday.
I have no problem, Prabhuji.
Great. Very much, dear.
Then we are fine.
So let's go to the chapter. Again, it's few points are discussed, but they are not complicated points. So I think we can fast go through them. So again, as in the previous chapter, the end of 13th chapter, we were discussing what is the relationship between Varnashrama Dharma and Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Now we have first topic in 14th chapter is what is the relationship between knowledge and renunciation and bhakti? If knowledge and renunciation are part of bhakti, are they needed for developing bhakti? What is the relation between? That's the question that is being discussed here. So let's see what Srila Prabhupada is saying. Chapter 14, the beginning. Some scholars recommend that knowledge and renunciation are important factors for elevating oneself to devotional service. But actually, that is not a fact. Actually, the cultivation of knowledge or renunciation, which are favorable for achieving a footing in Krishna consciousness, may be accepted in the beginning, but ultimately they may also come to be rejected. For devotional service is dependent on nothing other than the sentiment or desire for such service. So as we were learning in the beginning, bhakti is totally independent. Bhakti is completely non-dependent on any material circumstances, any material conditions. Bhakti is dependent only on one bhakti, on one thing, and this is bhakti. So we should have desire to practice bhakti, and this is our qualification to practice bhakti. And then Srila Prabhupada is saying, yes, knowledge, renunciation, they may help in the beginning. Why they are helping in the beginning? Well, if you know I'm not this body, that's why I should not enjoy the body. Rather, I should use it to serve Krishna. Or renunciation, why it's helping? Well, because I will renounce the material enjoyment so that I can use my time to go and serve Krishna. So in the beginning, it's little bit helpful until we don't have some attraction to the process of bhakti itself. But once this little bit attachment appears, then we don't need much development of non-devotional knowledge and non-devotional renunciation. We don't need these other processes. It is the opinion of expert devotees that mental speculation and artificial austerities of yoga practice may be favorable for becoming liberated from material contamination, but they will also make one's heart harder and harder. They will not help at all in the process of devotional service. These processes are therefore not favorable for entering into the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Actually, Krishna consciousness devotional service itself is the only way of advancing in devotional life. Devotional service is absolute. It is both the cause and the effect. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause and effect of all that be, and to approach Him, the Absolute, the process of devotional service, which is also absolute, has to be adopted. So that's one problem with the processes of jnana and vairagya, or knowledge and renunciation, that when one is doing them, one side effect is that the heart becomes hard. Why? Because in order to stay away from the material sense gratification, you have to think that sense gratification is bad, enjoyment is bad, and so on and so on. So gradually this makes your heart not so responsive to emotions and feelings. You have to give up emotions, give up feelings. But the problem is that in order to experience the bhakti emotions and bhakti feelings, the heart should be soft. If the heart is already too hard by knowledge, impersonal knowledge and impersonal renunciation, then this will be a problem to experience the emotions in the bhakti life. So we are going to have a problem. Sometimes people, they were practicing very austere lifestyle before bhakti, and they come into the realm of bhakti, they cannot enjoy bhakti. They cannot enjoy the nice prasadam, they cannot enjoy the nice relationship with the devotees, the fun, the jokes. They cannot enjoy the ecstatic kirtan, screaming, dancing, jumping. Why? Because for such a long time they were cultivating impersonal knowledge and renunciation, that now they consider all these things like part of Maya. They cannot just start enjoying the bhakti, spiritual bhakti lifestyle. So that's why here it is said that these are not needed, and not only they are not needed, but bhakti is independent from them. In order to advance on the path of bhakti, you are not dependent on impersonal knowledge and impersonal renunciation. Now we have to make one side point here, that yes, we won't practice the process of jnana yoga, developing knowledge. We won't practice the process of renunciation.
Karma yoga or other.
Yeah, it's more again like part of the process of jnana yoga. We won't do that. But this does not mean that we don't use the elements knowledge and renunciation in our spiritual life. We use them, but we don't use them apart from the bhakti practice, apart from our 64 angas which we were going through. Automatically in them, it is included some renunciation, it is included some knowledge. When you study Srimad Bhagavatam, what we are cultivating? Knowledge, yes. Let's say when you have to get up very early and take shower to go to worship the deity, what are you doing? Renunciation. But this is not separate from the process of bhakti. It is already included inside. When we are following Ekadashi, are we doing renunciation? Yes. When we are hearing lectures from the Vaishnavas, are we cultivating knowledge? Yes. But it is connected with bhakti. So it will actually make our hearts soft and very recipient to spiritual feelings and spiritual emotions, which is the end. The end is to start experiencing spontaneous emotions towards Krishna, towards devotees, towards Srimad Bhagavatam, towards the deity. This is the end. So yeah, we have these things in our process, but they are not separate from bhakti. They are part of the bhakti process. Yes.
Sometimes we see some people, maybe me, even we study science. We try to compare with religion and science, and a lot of time people have strong faith on science because they physically see that, and actually there is an ignorance because we are too much faith on our material eyes, which actually doesn't have too much value on it. Eyes, because we have propensity to make mistake, we are propensity to have cheating and stuff, so which is we are imperfect. But we are not going to that philosophy. Even that we are trying to trust on our physical structure of our body, and from that we gathering knowledge, and we detaching far away from the bhakti, and we are getting so much strong from our material. So in that point, what is your suggestion how those person can become a devotee? Because they are already very isolated with the material things. They said, okay, this one day one person, he was telling me, they go all the time different temples. 700 years before, there was no Hare Krishna. So actually they have knowledge, but this material, whatever books and things, resources they study, actually there is nothing over there. But they don't want to go for, which is like Krishna Nam is not just for 700 years before. It was long before also. So at that point, those people, how, as a preaching items, if we want to preach them, how we can, what is the statement in our Vaishnava philosophy? How
well, it depends.
Break that very hard rock. And they have become a hard rock.
If they are pious people, we can try to quote them from scripture that no, this is very ancient process. You just see in this Purana and in this book, if they are pious. If they are not pious, if they won't accept the authority of Shastra, then if we are learned, we can quote them some also secular knowledge that can convince them. There are so many historical books that are showing how Vedic culture is so ancient, and the miracles of the Vedic culture, and how so many things came from the Vedic culture, like the richness of Sanskrit, or the mathematics, or astrology, astronomy, Ayurveda, to convince them on their level, on a logical level, how great is the Vedic culture. And if we manage to do that, then can accept the spiritual knowledge of the Vedas also. And if they don't want to accept
Okay.
this, if they are too proud and they don't want to hear anything from us, well, then the only thing we can do is we can only give them prasadam. And
Okay. Yeah.
Hare Krishna. We cannot do anything.
Hare Krishna.
We can pray for them.
Pray for them. Hare Krishna. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
And it belongs to like Dashavida Nama Parad also, like if they don't want to accept, we shouldn't closely preach.
No, because these are not really, I mean, depends on the discussion, but it's, let's say, such kind of discussion. This look more like a historical discussion, let's say, about the Vedic culture, about these things. Then, well, they don't want to accept Shastra, so yeah, you can say to some extent they are kind of aparadis. But means we are not trying directly to preach to them about the glories of the holy name or glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna. So at least they won't make directly offense towards Krishna or his holy name, like that.
But this type of people sometimes they want to join in the Hare Krishna movement. They're feeling like, okay, this is kind of spiritual. They are in that rock style moment, but also they want to enjoy dancing, and so we might invite them. Hey, is it like this part? Let's go this part. We can invite them.
We can invite them, we can engage them, and they'll get some spiritual benefit, but they should know some piety so that they start accepting the philosophy.
Yeah, I see.
But to engage them is always good. To engage them in the kirtan, to engage them to give some donation, to engage them to take prasadam. This is always beneficial. We should always try to do this. That's why we are trying to distribute prasadam. That's why we are trying to distribute books. Because it's a way how people, they can get some punya, some pious credit, and they will become gradually purified. That's the idea. Okay?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So then, after Rupa Goswami is saying that, so detachment can make the heart hard, and then the heart will be useless for devotional service. But at the same time, detachment is necessary for achieving freedom from material desires so that we can do pure devotional service. So it is like contradiction. If we have detachment, the detachment will make our heart hard. But at the same time, we need detachment so that we can practice pure devotional service, because pure devotional service means no material desires. So it's like how these two goes together. Is there a way that we are detached, but this detachment doesn't make our heart hard? This is the question. And now Rupa Goswami is answering this question. Yes, there is a way. This kind of detachment is known as Yukta Vairagya. And this is the detachment that we are practicing in Krishna consciousness. So what is Yukta Vairagya? Let's see what Srila Prabhupada is saying about it. This is on page 114, fourth paragraph. Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami then recommends that one should not be attached to material sense enjoyment, but should accept everything enjoyable which is in relationship to Krishna. For example, eating is necessary and one wants some palatable dishes to satisfy his sense of taste. So, in that case, for the satisfaction of Krishna rather than for the satisfaction of the tongue, some palatable dishes may be prepared and offered to Krishna. Then it is renunciation. Let the palatable dishes be prepared, but unless they are offered to Krishna, one should not accept them for eating. This vow of rejecting anything which is not offered to Krishna is actually a renunciation. And by such a renunciation, one is able to satisfy the demands of the senses. So this is the renunciation that we are practicing. There is a verse, and this is one of your verses you have to learn by heart. Anasyakta sevishayan yatarham upayunjataha nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. Yukta vairagya means that you are not attached personally to something, but still you are accepting it and you are using it. Why? To give pleasure to Krishna with this thing. So let's say someone wants to give us a car, but we personally already, we don't have attachment to car. We can live with car or without car. We won't take it for our pleasure. But we won't reject it. Why? Because wait a minute, I can use this car in Krishna's service. So okay, although I don't need a car, I will take it, but not for my pleasure, but to be able to serve Krishna in this car. So this is the proper mentality of a Vaishnava. It's an interesting combination between attachment and detachment. It's personal detachment, but it's actually attachment to use this thing for the pleasure of Krishna. So it's a very interesting combination. And then Srila Prabhupada is explaining that yogis, impersonalists, they pretend to be on this high level of full renunciation from the material world, but actually because they are not ready to use everything for the pleasure of Krishna, their renunciation is known as Palgu Vairagya, or means dry renunciation or false renunciation. Why false? Because at some point they are very detached, at the next point they are very attached to the same thing. They cannot be eternally detached because it's not natural. If you remember in the beginning of Nectar of Devotion, we were speaking about one of the problems of the material rasa or material happiness. It's very flickering and it's jumping all the time from Boga to Tyaga. At one moment you want to enjoy some material object, but next moment you become fried from this and then you renounce it. But after renouncing it for some time, you again develop desire to enjoy it, and then you again go to enjoy it. And after some time, it becomes again distasteful, and you again want to renounce it. So jumping between these two. So because the renunciation of the impersonalists, the jnanis, the yogis is such, it's a dry renunciation, unnatural renunciation. Srila Prabhupada is saying it's a question of time that although they may be renounced for a long time from the material world and material activities, it's a question of time that they are coming back to the same material world and they engage again in material activities. Just they will again engage in material activities in the mode of goodness, generally. So let's read a little bit about this. Impersonalists who try to, this is the bottom of 114, chapter 114. Yeah, at 8 o'clock, if someone has to leave, no problem. But I think we'll be finished till that time. Impersonalists who try to avoid everything material may undergo severe austerities, but they miss the opportunity of being engaged in the service of the Lord. Thus, their renunciation is not sufficient for perfection. There are many instances where following such artificial renunciation without any contact with devotional service, the impersonalist again fell down and become attracted to material contamination. So this is the situation. There are many supposed renouncers, even at the present moment, who officially become sannyasis or renouncers and outwardly claim that spiritual existence is truth and material existence untruth. In this way, artificially, they make a show of renunciation of the material world. However, because they cannot reach the point of devotional service, they fail to achieve the goal, and they again come back to material activities such as philanthropic work and political agitation. There are many examples of so-called sannyasis who gave up the world as untruth, but again came to the material world because they were not seeking their real repose, the lotus feet of the Lord. Of course, this is the description here is about impersonal sannyasis, not Vaishnava sannyasis.
There was this story, I think, in Nectar of Devotion about one yogi who was meditating while Krishna was present on planet Earth. And he was in a cave somewhere, close by actually, to Krishna's place, in Pura Dwaraka. And then when he came out of his trance, Krishna has already left. And then he realized that he missed, like Prabhupada said here, he missed the opportunity to render service to the Lord while Krishna was here, while trying to catch a glimpse of Krishna's lotus feet in meditation. And he was very, very, as we can imagine, very disappointed. It's an example in Nectar of Devotion about certain combination of rasas, if I remember correctly.
Yes. So after that, Srila Prabhupada is saying, why one should not give up anything which can be utilized in the service of the Lord. So no need unnaturally to renounce something. If something can be used in the service of Krishna, it's our duty to use it. But we should be honest within our heart that we are not taking this to give enjoyment to ourselves, we are taking it to give enjoyment to Krishna. And of course, we as a devotees, we always get Mahaprasad from Krishna, but we should know that it's for Krishna, it's not for me. That's very important moment. So one should not give up anything which can be utilized in the service of the Lord. That is the secret of devotional service. Anything that can be utilized in advancing Krishna consciousness in devotional service should be accepted. For instance, we are using many machines for the advancement of our present Krishna consciousness movement. Machines like typewriters, dictating machines, tape recorders, microphones, and airplanes. Sometimes people ask us, why are you utilizing material products if you condemn the advancement of the material civilization? But actually, we do not condemn. We simply ask people to do whatever they are doing in Krishna consciousness. This is the same principle on which, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna advised Arjuna to utilize his fighting abilities in devotional service. Similarly, we are utilizing these machines for Krishna service. With such sentiment for Krishna or Krishna consciousness, we can accept everything. If the typewriter can be utilized for advancing our Krishna consciousness movement, we must accept it. Similarly, the dictating machine or any other machine must be used. Our vision is that Krishna is everything. Krishna is the cause and the effect, and nothing belongs to us. Krishna's things must be used in the service of Krishna. That is our vision. So that is very, very important moment of our philosophy. We are not trying to renunciate. We are simply trying to get the understanding, the knowledge that everything belongs to Krishna, and that's why everything should be used in service of Krishna. Whatever facilities we have, whatever things we have, we should use them for service of Krishna. Whatever abilities we have, they should be used for service of Krishna. Like for example, if someone is good driver, he cannot renounce this. oh, I'm a good driver, but I'm renouncing this. I will not use this in Krishna consciousness. It's against this principle of Yukta Vairagya. No, if you are good in something, the best thing that you know, the best thing that you can do, you have to offer it to Krishna. You won't use it for yourself, you use it for Krishna. So it's Yukta Vairagya. If you have a nice car, you should use it for service of Krishna and the Vaishnavas. If you have a big house, you have to use it for service of the Krishna and Vaishnavas. So this is called Yukta Vairagya. Whatever we have, facilities, abilities, everything should be used for Krishna. And this is real renunciation. It's not dry, unnatural renunciation. Very, very, very important principle for our Krishna conscious life. Sometimes even devotees, they kind of go into this direction of too much renunciation. And because of too much renunciation, actually, first, they cannot utilize everything that they know or they can do for Krishna. And second, they decrease themselves from experiencing the emotions and feelings in the devotional service.
Right.
And then their spiritual life becomes very dry. And then they start complaining, oh, I don't experience any happiness in Krishna consciousness. Well, maybe because we are not practicing the process properly. We should see the example of the Acharyas, example of Srila Prabhupada, and we just have to follow his example. That is the perfection of life. And then also, few other things are discussed here, like for example, one should be very careful about wealth and followers. We should not be too much after wealth and followers in Krishna consciousness, because this may create a problem in our spiritual life. Also, we should not have this wrong idea that, let's say, for example, if I give my money and I build a temple, from this day on, everything which is done in this temple, this is my devotional service. It doesn't work like that. We will also always get some benefit out of it because we are part of creating opportunities for devotional service. But it's not that now the devotional service of all the devotees in the temple, it's coming to our bank balance. It's not like that. Or also, if some spiritual master gets disciples and they perform devotional service, that now all this benefit from all their devotional service is coming to him. It's not like that. But we are naturally always getting percentage because we are part of the system. We are part of the chain. But the idea is that we shouldn't go too much in this direction after money or
we shouldn't
followers.
go at all. We shouldn't go at all in this direction. After money, followers, for personal sanctification.
Yes, for personal sanctification. That's the idea. Because again, Yukta Vairagya, like Srila Prabhupada, was not against money. Rather, he was asking devotees to bring lots of money because he needed money to spread the mission. He was not against followers because he needed followers to spread the mission. But it was not to benefit himself. It was just for the pleasure of Krishna. Again, Yukta Vairagya principle. Also, sometimes devotees are speaking about principles like, for example, ahimsa, non-violence. We have to be non-violent, or brahmacharya, celibacy, or satyam, truthfulness. All these restraints are not items of sadhana bhakti by themselves, because by themselves they don't impel devotion to manifest in our heart. If you are truthful, devotion will not appear in your heart. If you are following brahmacharya, devotion will not appear in your heart. But again, they are helpful in devotional service. But we will not follow them separately from devotional service. We will following them just as a part of the process of devotional service. Srila Prabhupada is giving interesting example with the non-violence. Some people, their goal is to be vegetarians. Why? Because in this way they will be non-violent to the animals. But Srila Prabhupada is saying our goal is not to be a vegetarian. Our goal is to be Krishna devotees. And because a Krishna devotee, he is a vegetarian, that's why we are automatically vegetarians. So this is the principle. This is how the things are working in Krishna consciousness.
Yeah, same question I faced 2 days before. One devotee, they invited us and they're saying, hey, you coming to the temple, why you not taking our pradam? Because the Brahmana is cooking. I said, I don't know the Brahmana, and I don't know he is initiated and which sampradaya he initiated. There are 4 sampradayas. And so I just told, this is, unless we take everything, no problem if it is in Krishna consciousness.
You can say it this way, or if you see that people will become offended, you can say, oh, okay, please give me a plate and I will take it and I will eat it home because I have to go, or something like that.
Yeah, then I give it someone who actually loves to help.
You can be straightforward. Sometimes you can be a little bit more.
I do that sometimes. Yeah, I do that.
In the situation. Okay, so that was important discussion about Varnashrama Dharma, about knowledge and renunciation, about other qualities like non-violence, brahmacharya, truthfulness, and the conclusion of all this discussion is that they are not parts of the process of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, but they are very much helpful. But we won't use them separately from the process. We'll just follow the process of Sadhana Bhakti, and everything is automatically included there. We will become non-violent, we will become truthful, we will become followers of Varnashrama Dharma, automatically just by following the process of Krishna Bhakti. Nothing will lack in this practice. And now the last thing discussed in this chapter is Srila Prabhupada is explaining that we can follow one of the process of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, means we have 9 main practices, yes? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. The devotee can follow seriously one of those, or he can follow all of them together. In both cases, if he is following the process seriously, one or many, he will achieve complete perfection. This is called Ekanga Bhakti or Anekanga Bhakti. Devotee is following one process predominantly or many processes. And examples are given. We can just shortly read the examples. This is on the page 117, the 3rd paragraph. There are concrete examples of how a devotee discharged one of these services and achieved perfection. King Parikshit achieved desired goal of life simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadeva Goswami achieved the desired goal of life simply by reciting Srimad Bhagavatam. Prahlad Maharaj became successful in his devotional service by always remembering the Lord. This is Smarana, the 3rd process. Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, was successful by engaging herself in massaging the lotus feet of the Lord. Pada Sevanam, service of the feet of the Lord, lotus feet of the Lord. King Prithu became successful by worshipping in the temple, Archanam. Akrura became successful by offering prayers, Vandanam. Hanuman became successful by rendering personal service to Lord Ramachandra, Dasyam. Arjuna became successful by being a friend of Krishna, Sakyam. And Bali Maharaj became successful simply by offering all of his possessions to Krishna, Atma Nivedana, full surrender. And then Ambarisha Maharaj is given as an example of someone who was following all these processes together. He was listening, he was chanting, he was remembering the Lord, he was using his hands, cleaning the temple of the Lord, he was using his legs to go to the temple, he was using his tongue to taste prasadam, he was using his body to serve the devotees, so and so on and so on. So in this way, either we follow one of the process of devotional service or all of them together, we can achieve the desired result, supreme perfection, going back to Krishna, to the spiritual world. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So this was our summary of 13 and 14 chapter of Nectar of Devotion. Do you have some questions on this thing? Oh, we have question here. Yes.
The last part you said, Amrish Maharaj was using all of these. So I want to ask Amrish Maharaj was using the service of devotees for the deities.
Which one?
Amrish Maharaj is a Hanuman who was rendering service to Lord Rama.
To Krishna.
Dakyam? Dasyam.
Dasyam.
Uh-huh.
So Amrish Maharaj was doing this, rendering service to Lord by worshipping the deity or the devotees.
Both.
Oh,
Barish Maharaj was using his body to serve both the devotees and Krishna, but particularly in these verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that he was touching with his body the bodies of devotees. And in this way, he was accepting it that this will be purification for him. Like sometimes we go to a devotee and we touch his lotus feet and we touch our head. It's a way to purify ourselves. Why? Because the lotus feet of a devotee, they are special. They are the both of everything auspicious. So both, we can serve the deities, we can serve the devotees. Okay, dear devotees, if there is nothing, thank you very much. So Wednesday we'll go through 15 and 16 chapter of Nectar of Devotion. They are describing the Raganuga Bhakti. Until now, we were speaking about Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Now, in Wednesday, we are going to speak what is Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti. It's very interesting topic. It will be interesting discussion, I'm sure, to understand what is actually Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti and what is the practice of Raganuga Sadhana Bhakti according to Rupa Goswami, our Acharya. So yes, we will do the lecture at 6:30 on Wednesday. Please try to do it online if you can. If you, for some reason, you cannot do it, please listen to the lecture later. If you have some other questions, please write to me. Thank you very much, dear devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.